This is Choose the Bear, where we dive deep into the power and joy of living a vibrant, independent life on your own terms. This podcast is your go-to source for smart, fun, and insightful conversations about what it means to embrace independence and live the life you choose. I'm Kat Calvin, and together we'll explore how this movement is challenging outdated stereotypes, redefining success, and empowering people to live their best independent lives. Hello. Today, we are talking to the dynamic, energetic, passionate Dr. Angela L. Harris. She is the founder of an organization with the best name ever, No Bibs, Burps, Bottles. And it's all about bringing child-free Black women together to build community, to be a support system, to celebrate their lives and enjoy their lives now, whether they are happily child-free, whether they are hoping to have children in the future, etc. It's really wonderful. She is super fun. And I think that you will enjoy her unique perspective and life experience that she shares with us in this interview. So enjoy. All right, everyone. I am so excited because today's guest is awesome, but also the name of her organization is just so cute. I just loved it. So we today have Dr. Angela L. Harris of No Bibs, Burps, or Bottles. How great is that? Welcome, Dr. Harris. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, Kat, thank you so much for having me, and it's good to see you again. You and I met a month or so ago, if not more, on a alliance for child-free individuals regarding voting and things we need to consider. So it was good to not only meet you, but the other guests on that Zoom as well. So nice seeing you again, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm so excited to have this conversation, but let's start with you. Can you just tell us who are you in whatever way that means to you?
Yeah. Well, so I'm Dr. Angela L. Harris, and I always tell people that L is very important to me because it's my middle initial. So I don't go by Angie, I don't go by Ange, but Angela L. Harris is really important to me. I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a best friend, I'm an auntie, I'm a godmom, but more importantly, I am the founder and visionary of No Bibs, Burps Bottles, and we are an online community and brand that empowers, celebrates, and highlights African American Black child-free women to live their best child-free life. And so I started No Bibs Burps Bottles a few years ago, basically when I was looking for a community that looked like me, a community that can understand my cultural background, in addition to understanding my desire to opt out of motherhood. So it was hard to find that community. And I'm not saying that it wasn't existing. I just had a hard time finding it. And so hence I created No Bibs Burps Bottles out of just trying to validate myself, build my own self-confidence about being child-free. But yeah, I'm also a college administrator. I'm a fur mom. Yeah, I think at this point in my life, I'm just a woman who's just trying to stay above water and live a abundant life.
I love that. I love that. So, when I was reading about how you started No Bibs Burps Bottles, you talked about how you did a survey in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I got stories from child-free women across a variety of spectrums. Can you talk a little bit about that survey and what some of the stories were that affected you the most?
Yeah, so like I said, when I was really thinking about, okay, what do I do with this energy? And at that time, I can't even say it was passion, but like this curiosity and this energy of being child free, while also trying to like grapple with like why I didn't want kids. So I created a survey in hopes to kind of understand myself and validate that I can't be the only one. So from that survey, it was just asking African American women questions about When did they decide not to have kids? How do they label themselves? What were the factors of not having children? If you wanted children, how did you go from the desire of being a parent to now embracing being child free? And embracing, that's kind of subjective, right? Because some people didn't really embrace it. It was just kind of like put on their lap and then they had to figure out what to do with it. But the survey was very interesting. And what I found is that one, I'm not the only one, right? So it was really kind of grassroots, just like, hey, knowing some individuals who were without children and then asking them to complete the survey and then saying like, hey, if you know other women who don't have children, can you please send this survey out to them? So kind of just kind of swirled around. But it was really interesting to see some of the stories of, hey, I wanted to be a parent, but I wanted to do it in a systematic way, right? I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a job that I was secure in or a career that I was secure in. And then I wanted to start a family. But when I looked up, because I did all these other things prior to that, it was then like I'm in my 40s, I'm in my mid 40s or 50s, menopause has hit. So I've had to now readjust that what I maybe wanted in my 30s is a little bit more difficult as I age because I really wanted to be married. So that was one thing. Some women who are now child free wanted to be parents, but they wanted to be parents in the context of marriage and having children. In addition, some people from that survey communicated that they were ambivalent, like, hey, I'm not really sure. I don't feel this biological clock ticking like some other of my peers. And I don't know what to do with that. So it was just interesting to kind of pull all this great information together and one say, oh, I see me in that. I see me in that. I see me in that. While also saying, like, wow, this is some rich information. This is a community of women who are either happy about being child free, not quite sure, and then still just trying to find themselves. So I took all of that and I said, what can I do with this? How can I empower not only myself, but others? And then no Bibs, Burps, Bottles was kind of formed from that.
I love that journey and that you really went very deep with it. I'm clearly very academic, and so you took the intellectual perspective, and I think a lot of people sort of feel the way you do, but don't really know how to channel that energy, and you really did. One of the things that's interesting is that this is specifically for Black women, and obviously, people and really mostly women in every culture, there's different types of pressures or challenges or historical context, cultural context around the choice to be child free and sort of what the external pressures are. What are the sort of unique challenges or contexts around being child free in the Black community?
Yeah, and so I get this question in different ways a lot. Like a lot of times there's just curiosity on why I focus on Black women. The community is so large and, why nitpick about race. But I always answer that question because I am an African American Black woman. And so my identity is really important to me. And I understand that I hold multiple identities, but some of them are more salient than others. And so, with that being said, I always lead with I'm a Black woman, and it's okay for me to cater to that community and to empower that community because I want that community to do the same for me. But some of the unique things that I see, have heard, have witnessed, have observed is really just it's almost like we already have to deal with a lot being a woman. We already have to deal with a lot being a Black woman, and then you throw child free in that. And so that's why No Bibs, Burps, Bottles is really unique because I'm speaking to all those identities. And so trying to dispel the myth of promiscuous Black women, all Black women just have a bunch of babies by a bunch of people, and we're just out here contributing to broken homes. Or, the angry Black woman who's always standing on the mountaintop, angry and shouting about something, right? So if you take all those different narratives and then you apply being child free, being a woman, being Black, sometimes all of those can be strikes or negatives. So again, being able to say, no, I see you as a woman. I see you as a Black woman, and I understand what comes with that identity. I see you as a child-free Black woman and understanding what comes with those identities. And so it's just dispelling the old maid myth, right? Like back in the day, we referred to Big Mama taking care of the community, but now Big Mama is tired, right? And as a community of Black women, what does that mean? Because now you see on social media Black women saying, Nana and Grandma is not taking care of these kids like they used to. But not understanding like the historical context of that, right? We had Big Mama had other people helping her in the community, but now things are changed. Or being able to say, not all Black women are out there having kids by multiple people. What about the woman who's not having kids at all? So those are some of the themes that I see women wanting to dispel the myth of, being promiscuous or having a lot of baby daddies, or just essentially saying, I'm tired. And if I'm tired, where do I then draw the energy to take care of a family when I'm still trying to take care of myself? In addition to Kat, what's really important to me as I started No Bibs, Burps, Bottles, and the foundation being African American Black women, I also talk about the historical context of being child free. Like I have a choice today in 2024, recognizing that my ancestors did not. So I speak a lot about understanding what a slave woman went through, recognizing that, you know, maybe I don't think she wanted to have 20 kids and have them be sold off, right? But recognizing the trauma that Black slave women had to go through, not only just to bear children, but bear children and conceive in a pretty traumatic way most of the time. And then recognizing that those kids were never your own, but they were a commodity, they were product to be sold. And a lot of times I think we forget that piece when it's easy to say, have kids, have kids, have kids. But in the work that I do, I like to think that I'm honoring my ancestors by remembering the traumatic experiences they went through being breeders.
Yeah, I mean, I think that historical context is so important because it is something that many people don't think about, but that we think about because we are still dealing with it. Like when you think about the Black maternal mortality crisis and all of these other ways that being a Black woman and childbirth are still so connected to health and mortality and danger. But there's also this really unique thing about Black women because we have pretty much always had a vastly higher percentage of women who are unmarried than any other sort of racial group, and a much higher percentage of single mothers who than any other racial group. And so that's led to this real interesting divide where we have, on the one hand, single mothers, and on the other hand, this very, very large group of extremely well educated Black women with careers and no children. And I have always thought that there seems like there are some natural opportunities there for partnership and for support in ways that other groups may not have because our numbers are just so starkly divided in two different directions. And of course, there are reasons for that. The justice system being really, among other things. So have you thought of sort of what that could look like, or seen any examples of how these two very disparate groups who seem like they could naturally come together to support each other, how we could do that?
Yeah, I've thought about that. And really, No Bibs, Burps, Bottles, we aim to be in the forefront of that. So when I am on an Instagram or a TikTok live, when I'm having my events, I always thank moms who get it, because there are mothers who follow No Bibs, Burps, Bottles. And some of them, it's out of curiosity, right? Like, what is this Black woman talking about being child free and being so bold and proud about it? So I try to open a door for conversation, for mutual understanding between Black mothers and child-free Black women, right? Because if we can understand each other and respect each other from just that small point of we're women, let's support each other, it can start there. So when I'm on a live and there are moms who like, I'm a mom here of three, and I think it's really dope what you're doing, or I have a daughter who doesn't want kids. I'm so glad that I found your page. Then I'm like, yes, right? Because there are enough platforms that 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 bash moms, right? And no, Bibs, Burps, Bottles, we are not about that, right? So I welcome moms being able to say, I see you, I get you. I want to be able to also validate and say, moms, I hear you when you say, hey, I love my kids, but it's hard being a parent, right? And although I'm not a parent, I get the fact that just life is difficult for you when you're taking care of others. So I think if we can have just open conversations, which we do on my Instagram lives. I have moms who have subscribed to my newsletter, so they know what they're getting. They're hearing all of this information about being child free. But I also recently did a podcast interview with a bunch of mothers. They're my friends, so they support. I think this is a prime example of mothers who support the work that I do. But I was just like, hey, moms, let's just have a chat. And I was able to talk to them about, why are you a mom? Because I get the question, why aren't you a mom? And so that was a good discussion. So I can't wait to release that. So I do think there are opportunities just for mutual understanding, open dialogue, right? Because for every mom that says, hey, you should be procreating, you're contributing to low birth rates, there's always a mom who's just like, man, if I could do it all over again, I would be on your side. And just welcoming that transparency, welcoming that realness from parents, while also me having the opportunity to say, just because I'm proud and bold about being child free does not mean that this life is perfect. That doesn't mean that I'm without flaw because I'm not a mom. So I definitely think there's always opportunity. And when we are open to those opportunities, we come together, not putting motherhood here, not putting being child free here, but us being able to see each other as actually equal.
Yeah, no, I love that. So you're the dean of students at a college.
Mhm.
So you are surrounded by young people all the time. Are you seeing their attitudes towards being single and motherhood change? We see that the numbers of women and young men who are choosing to either not have children or not get married is really growing. How are you
Mhm.
reflected in the young people that you're interacting with?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm the assistant dean of students at a small liberal arts college. I've worked in higher ed for a really long time. Left school, then went back to get my doctorate degree in clinical psychology. And so, just looking at mind, body, and spirit, and wanting young adults, so working 18 to 21, they're very impressionable developmentally. They're at different places. So I always say, just because I don't have kids of my own, I impact this community every day with the work and interactions that I have with them. So what I will say, I don't necessarily, I think there's still a lot of work to be done, right? And so when we are talking about being child free, a lot of times you're hearing maybe older voices, because I think people just think young adults, they're 21, they don't know what they want. Let's let them develop more. Let's wait until they're 30. But I do think that the conversations that I'm bringing to the table, as well as other people who navigate the child free space, I do think more young people are listening. And I think that's a good thing because that's what we want. We want young adults to understand that they have an option. So I can't say that this population that I'm seeing in the college realm, 18 to 21, 18 to 25, that they're like, yay, child free. But I do think the emergence of social media and videos and people sharing their narratives, that people are now like scrolling and they're like, ooh, what is this child free thing? And so I was honored when a 21-year-old did reach out to me and said, hey, I'm child free and I stumbled across your page and I like to be on your podcast. And so recognizing through those questions of wanting to empower someone who is just that serious, who's maybe thinking about sterilization, 10 feet down, 10 toes down in her decision, while also recognizing people are like, oh, you're 21. Oh, bless your heart. Just wait until you're 30. You'll meet someone. So I think young adults are coming around, but it's nothing that is, we still have the, let's talk about abstinence. Let's talk about birth control. Let's talk about if you get pregnant, what your options are. But nowhere in those conversations, it's really loud and clear about you also have the option to be child free. So when I was able to speak at Michigan State 2 years ago, and speak to a group of undergrad students, that's what it was all about, right? So if I'm able to have more opportunities like that, or just through my platform, young adults watching and listening, I do think that we'll start to see that trend upwards. But my job, I'm not also out there trying to get people not to have kids. That's not my platform. But I want people to at least be exposed and know their options.
Yeah, that's great. So, for anyone listening who now really wants to get involved with No Bibs Burps Bottles, how can they?
Yes, yes. And so we are on social media, and I always tell people, I actually had someone say, I'm not Black, but can I follow you on social media? And I'm like, yes, because my social media is open. And so, but just for someone to even ask, I appreciate that, because that means that they're wanting to intentionally honor the space or honor their platform. But I always share with individuals. I'm most active on Instagram, so people can follow me on Instagram at nobibsburpsbottles.com. I would love your community and your audience to follow us on YouTube. And so on our YouTube channel, not only do I do a day in the life or a vlog of a child-free sister, I also have interviews with child-free women. So it's something that I really take pride in, and just having these sisters be just one with me and sharing space and time. So I would love your followers to go over to YouTube. And then we're also on Spotify for the podcast, on TikTok, as well as just our website, nobibsburpsbottles.com, where you'll hear more about our chocolate and child-free Sister Circle brunch. We're gearing up for our chocolate and child-free optimal growth group experience. So I'm really excited about that project. I'm also in the stages of writing my first book, collecting all those narratives and putting it in a book. So I'm excited about what 2025 has to offer for No Bibs Burps Bottles. And we just want to grow organically with people who want to know more about what this child-free life is about.
Well, thank you so much. For everyone listening, of course, all of those links will be in the show notes. So just scroll down on whatever you're listening to and click away. And thank you so much, both for joining the podcast, but also for bringing this group together and doing this work. It's really important.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and of course, leave a review. Until next week, here's hoping you find joy in your solo life.